There was a time when men believed that words could move mountains, that the sharper the tongue, the greater the power. But those who truly understood the nature of dominance, of control, of silence, knew otherwise. They knew that words are brittle, that the more you speak, the more you reveal, that an argument, no matter how clever, still binds you to your opponent. And he understood that. He said nothing and won everything. Power does not raise its voice. Power does not negotiate. Power moves in silence, like a shadow stretching at dusk. It announces nothing, and yet its presence is undeniable. Welcome to Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument.
Any momentary triumph you think gained through argument is really a Pyrrhic victory. The resentment and ill will you stir up is stronger and lasts longer than any momentary change of opinion. Robert Greene.
The temptation to argue is seductive. It flatters the ego. It gives us the illusion that we are in control, that our intellect is enough to bend others to our will. But in truth, argument is a weak man's form of power. Because when you argue, you expose yourself. You give your opponent something to push against. You awaken their pride, their resistance. Even when you win, you lose. But when you act, when you move with certainty, with precision, without explanation, you leave them stunned, not convinced, changed. This is not just strategy. This is a psychological truth. It is the silent language of real power, and those who master it never need to raise their voices again. This law does not reject intelligence. It does not deny the value of a sharp mind or a compelling vision. But it reminds us that in the realm of power, the mind is only as strong as its ability to manifest through movement, through decision, through result. The ancient kings knew this. The strategists, the emperors, the revolutionaries. They all discovered the futility of trying to win minds through words alone. You must alter the landscape itself. Make the debate irrelevant. Turn the battlefield into a monument to your presence. Speak with motion. Speak through outcome. Speak by never speaking at all. The human mind likes to believe it is rational, that logic reigns, that persuasion, reason, and truth are enough to move others. But this is a lie we tell ourselves. In reality, people are not moved by logic. They are moved by identity, by emotion, by pride, and by fear. When you try to reason with someone, you are not simply confronting their ideas. You are challenging their sense of self, their worldview, their place in the world. And so they resist.
The truth is not always defeated by argument, but more often by noise. Arthur Schopenhauer.
They do not listen to understand. They listen to defend, to refute, to win. You offer facts. They offer feeling. And in the court of power, feeling wins every time. Even if your logic is perfect, your facts undeniable, what you will receive in return is not gratitude, but resentment. This is the paradox of argument. It inflames the ego. It deepens resistance. It turns truth into provocation. But action bypasses all of that. When you act, you do not ask for permission. You do not require belief. You demonstrate truth, not in words, but in reality.
Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Epictetus.
When a bridge is built, it does not debate the river. When the sun rises, it does not ask the night to agree. You do not need consensus to move. Let them see what you believe through what you do. Let your deeds speak in the silence after their shouting fades. Let them be stunned not by your rhetoric, but by the new reality you have imposed. The truly powerful reshape thought not through syllogism, but through spectacle. They leave no room for debate, only reflection, admiration, or fear. Let them argue among themselves. You will have already moved the world. In the violent chaos of post-revolutionary France, power was not simply seized, it was survived. Joseph Fouché was the embodiment of survival. He was neither warrior nor noble. He carried no army behind him. And yet, he moved through the bloodiest chapters of French history untouched. He served the Jacobins. He betrayed Robespierre. He whispered to Napoleon, only to smile again in the salons of the Bourbon kings. His weapon was not his voice. It was his silence. Fouché never raised his voice in protest. He never debated in the open square. He existed in the margins, in the corridors of shadow. And through silence, through action, he became one of the most feared and effective manipulators in European political history. When Napoleon summoned him, suspicion had already settled like fog over their relationship. Whispers of royalist plots, secret networks, betrayal. Napoleon, a man of immense force and passion, demanded answers. He roared. He accused. He brought forth names, rumors, dossiers. And Fouché? He said almost nothing. He bowed. He listened. He left the room with a calm no storm could shatter. In the days that followed, strange things began to happen. Anonymous reports, unconfirmed letters. Spies began reporting that Napoleon's own name had surfaced in certain royalist circles. Unproven, undeniable. The emperor, sensing the walls around him shift, moved cautiously. He removed Fouché from his position, silently, without drama. But the damage had already been done. Years later, when Napoleon's empire crumbled beneath him and he was exiled across the sea, Fouché remained. He was still in Paris, still pulling strings, still whispering in the ears of kings. He outlived them all. Fouché did not win arguments. He won reality. His power came not from what he said, but from what he did not need to say. There are revolutions that begin with explosions, gunfire, and declarations. And then there are those that begin with a whisper. Mahatma Gandhi understood what the British Empire could not, that words, even moral ones, were often twisted, debated, and dismissed by power. And so he chose a different language, a quieter one, a more ancient one. He chose action. In 1930, under the burden of colonial taxation, India faced not just oppression, but humiliation. The British controlled even the salt, a substance that belonged to the sea, to the earth, to everyone. Most would have protested with slogans. Gandhi marched 240 miles, 24 days, no weapons, no crowd control, just a slow, deliberate act. At first, the British scoffed. What could one old man and a trail of peasants possibly achieve? But as each day passed, more joined. Farmers, women, elders, the poor and the forgotten. The march became a pilgrimage of civil disobedience, drawing the attention of the entire world. And when Gandhi finally knelt at the shore and collected a handful of salt, the act, so small, so human, tore a hole in the empire's armor. This was not rebellion through rhetoric. It was rebellion through being. The British cracked down. They arrested over 60,000 people. They tried to maintain control through the language they understood, law, enforcement, punishment. But the world had already seen something else. It had seen truth without words. Gandhi did not try to convince the British of his right to freedom. He walked as though he were already free. And in doing so, he revealed the absurdity of their rule, not by contesting it, but by ignoring it, by rendering their control meaningless in the face of simple, resolute human action. The Salt March remains one of the most powerful demonstrations in modern history, not because of any speech Gandhi gave, but because of what he did. He turned an empire's law into a farce with one gesture. No courtroom, no argument, just presence, and that presence moved the soul of a nation. In the age of samurai, where honor was spoken of more than it was practiced, there lived a man who spoke very little of it, but embodied it in ways that legends would whisper for centuries. Miyamoto Musashi was no polished noble. He had no courtly manners, no master to serve, no dojo behind him. He was untamed, undomesticated, a force of nature in the shape of a man. And yet, when he arrived in Kyoto to challenge the prestigious Yoshioka clan, the city tensed as if the mountain itself had stirred. The Yoshioka were elite. They represented tradition, legacy, centuries of refined martial discipline. They lived by form, by appearance, by reputation. Musashi, he lived by effect. He sent a challenge to the clan's heir. The duel was accepted. The time was set. The city watched. And Musashi arrived, late, hours late. In samurai culture, this was a grave insult, a direct challenge not just to skill, but to face, to honor itself. The Yoshioka heir, seething with rage, met him in the field. But rage is loud, it is clumsy. Musashi was not. He defeated the young heir swiftly, decisively. It was not just a defeat, it was humiliation, a crack in the porcelain pride of the Yoshioka name. But Musashi was not finished. Days later, he challenged the next heir. Another duel, another precise arrival, late again, another strike, another death. The clan was unraveling. So for the third duel, the Yoshioka abandoned pretense. This was no longer about honor. It was about revenge. They set a trap, dozens of swordsmen lying in wait, ambush, elimination. But Musashi did not walk into it, because this time he arrived early. Hours before dawn, he was already there, watching from the woods, measuring, waiting. And as the first light crept across the earth, he emerged from the shadows. With a wooden sword he had carved himself, he struck down the new heir, a boy too young to understand the war he had inherited. In a flash, Musashi disappeared into the fog. One man, against a clan. No arguments, no warnings, no negotiations, only action.
You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. Miyamoto Musashi.
Musashi understood something few ever do, that when the world is built on ceremony, appearances and chatter, presence becomes a weapon. He didn't need a title. He didn't need applause. He didn't even need a real blade. He needed only to move, to strike, and to vanish. Where others talked of honor, he showed it. Where others tried to defend themselves with words, he dissolved their words with action. In the annals of history, few have spoken so loudly without ever raising their voice. Miyamoto Musashi was one of them. There is a moment after the storm has passed, when the air holds a sacred stillness. That moment, where nothing moves, yet everything has changed, is where real power lives. In every example we've seen, a single truth reverberates, that the more you explain yourself, the more you tether your power to approval. And the more you argue, the more you diminish your authority. Because words are not built to dominate. They are built to connect. And connection, while beautiful, has its place outside the battlefield of power. When Fouché moved, the corridors of government reshaped themselves without a speech. When Gandhi walked, the empires trembled not from fear, but from the unbearable weight of moral clarity. When Musashi acted, his silence turned warriors into ghosts and traditions into ashes. These men did not win arguments. They dissolved the need for one. They bypassed resistance by becoming unanswerable. The ultimate victory in argument is not to win. It's to not need the argument at all. In a world drowning in opinion, speculation, and endless explanation, your strength will not come from the volume of your voice, but from the sharpness of your motion. Act in such a way that no rebuttal is necessary. Move with such certainty that debate becomes irrelevant. Create results so real, so undeniable, that silence follows you like an obedient servant. Do not waste energy trying to convince those who refuse to see. Show them. Show them by how you carry yourself, by the empire you build, by the battles you do not even dignify with your words. This is Law 9. Speak less. Do more. Let others scream. Let others explain. You will be remembered for the silence you shaped into legacy. Power is not spoken. It is demonstrated. Like, comment, subscribe, or don't. You are the master of your own life.